My name's Eddie Oliver. I'm friends with David Thibodeau. Both of us have mutual friends throughout the entertainment industry, and we had met, through Facebook, through multiple friends that, were performers, things like that. I did stand-up comedy for a while. I was on Last Comic Standing, and then they were converting his book into a TV show, and so some of the production people were mutual friends. So we ended up kind of meeting each other, and both of us live a very similar lifestyle. We're both very nomadic people, and so we both were traveling the country over the course of the year, and we just kept kind of just missing each other. Like, he would literally post a picture that he was in New Mexico and I had just left New Mexico, or he was going through Nashville and I was there the week previous, and we just kept missing each other. So, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm assuming you're going to show up at the 25th anniversary memorial, and why don't we just meet up there, and that way we know for sure we're both, I'll go and meet you and I know for sure where you're going to be. And he was like, okay, that'll work. And so I ended up meeting him. That was my first experience with the Branch Davidians, was at the memorial. And it's one of those things. I came to this situation with kind of a mixed view, because I was a veteran. I was in the Army. I was in for 3 years. And so when I look at the situation as a whole, I was a bit conflicted in the beginning, because I can understand how in the very first year you're very gung-ho, you're very trained, and I could see how the government operatives would come in using the force that they did. But I can also tell you, over the course of my military career, the last couple of years, especially the last year, I became somewhat disenfranchised with the military. That being said, when I came to Waco and I met the survivors, I was I fell in that middle ground, and I don't think I really understood the gravity of what happened here until I actually got to sit down and meet the people. And I had seen people like Clive Doyle and Sheila Martin on documentaries, and when you see a person on a television program like that, you only get kind of a one-dimensional view. I believe Madman or Messiah had just come out. I had watched that, so I got to see Kathy Schroeder. And then I got to meet these people in real life and actually got to spend some time with them. And I was actually very fortunate to spend 4 days with Kathy Schroeder. And I spent a little bit of time with Clive Doyle. And all of a sudden I realized that these people were really victimized. And the more I kind of started researching it, I'm really, really blessed that I have one of those very analytical minds, and I have a lot of, I can read a lot of documents and I can retain a lot of things. So I've been really blessed with that. And so I kind of started checking into what happened in Waco, and then I started finding out just how bad it really was. And what these people really went through. And then you hear details when you get to interact with these people, and you get to ask some questions that you don't hear on the documentaries, that, these are just cut and dry little snippets that you get. And when you actually get to spend time and you can ask them all these different questions, the thing that really stands out the most, which really blew me away, is I would talk to Clive and I would talk to Kathy, and each one of them had a detail that the other one didn't. And then I would talk to Tibbs, and I would ask him the same question. And I had come to realize that they actually don't talk amongst each other. And especially after it was all said and done with, I ended up staying in Waco for about a week, and I got to spend a lot of time with several of the survivors. Kevin Jones, Heather Jones, I got to meet, and that was when I really kind of realized that they didn't talk amongst each other, and there's a lot of little details that were getting missed. And like I say, I really feel like I was blessed and I was fortunate to have that experience. And overall, my takeaway was, I really had come to understand just how bad this was, the gravity of the situation, and just how bad these guys were victimized. Clive Doyle, especially, people see Clive in every documentary and you see, oh, Clive, and he lost his daughter in the fire. And that's really about as far as they go with it. But then when you actually get to spend time with Clive and you find out, well, no, it was actually worse than that. Clive went through the 51-day siege. He walks out of the fire. He lost his daughter. He was burned very badly. He had to have reconstructive surgery. After he gets done with the surgery, he immediately goes on trial for killing 4 police officers. And when you spend time with Clive, that was where it kind of hit me in the face like a load of bricks, where it's like, this is one of the kindest, gentlest people that you will ever meet. And they're charging this guy if he's a 4-time cop killer.
Let me ask you a question. So on quite a few documentaries, you'll get an FBI agent or two say they will blame Clive for setting the fire. Or they'll say things like, well, Clive got out of the fire, but he didn't bother to save his daughter. Or they'll say, well, Clive saved a little dog, but he didn't bring out any children. So what do you think about that sort of allegation in the television documentaries?
Now you're going to get me fired up. That actually is one of my biggest point of contentions. That's the stuff that really grinds my gears, especially knowing Clive the way I know him. The dog story is completely fabricated. Every time I hear, Byron Sage is the biggest proponent that says that. And he says, none of the Davidians came out with any children. One of them came out with a dog. First off, and this is where having the benefit of talking with Clive firsthand and talking with David Thibodeau firsthand and getting those 2 stories and being able to compare them. They didn't know the dog was going to follow them out. The dog did follow them out. They were wandering around in confusion in the smoke and stumbled out, and a dog followed them out. They didn't bring the dog out. And that's a big part of my frustration when I hear these government people talk. They just really misrepresent the facts. That's been my biggest thing that's really upset me the most, the more I've learned and really started digging into this, is just how badly they misrepresented the facts. I promise you, had Clive known that the fire was going to start, he would not have sent his daughter up to the chapel.
Actually, his daughter was upstairs on the second floor.
Or the second floor. He was in the chapel.
Chapel.
Right, exactly. He would not have, but I'm saying he would not have sent Sherry upstairs to be with the other women had he had any inkling that the fire was going to start. And that's another point of frustration too. The last conversation Clive had with David Koresh was, hey, we're running out of water. We might be forced to send some people out if we're going to prolong this thing and you're going to ride your seals. That doesn't sound like a group of individuals that's going to start a fire. And I can say this definitively, having had the benefit of interacting with a couple of the survivors that actually came out the day of the fire. There was no organized plan to torch the place. If it was, and this is where I give Clive a tremendous amount of credit, because Clive will say, perhaps it was one of us, perhaps. He doesn't rule one way or the other, and I have a lot of respect for Clive, because Clive's in my position. I've researched this thing thoroughly, and I can't definitively say who I feel started the fire. I will say this, if it was a Branch Davidian, it was 1 or 2 people that were either in the know or acting on their own. This was not an organized plot. This absolutely was not a mass suicide. It absolutely was not.